Be so calm that you make reality, the universe itself, and most importantly, your old frequency nervous. You see, peace and calmness is as close to God as we will ever begin to be. Esoterically, there was once a story where Jesus was asleep on a boat and a storm hit while he was with his disciples, and they were frightened and they were scared. And they woke him up. And Christ, which is nothing more than the unification with the infinite intelligence, that's what takes place when you align yourself with the godly consciousness, which is what Jesus was. He was a vessel for the infinite intelligence to flow through. And once we get into the etymological origins of the word Christ, we go back to the ancient Kemetic, meaning the anointed one, or a reference to a state of consciousness, or in more Hindu traditions, Krishna, so on and so forth, once again representing an avatar. Regardless, Christ told the storm outside of them to be calm, and it disappeared. Now, this is a power that you have within you, and this can be applicable to any particular condition, circumstance, or person in your reality. Because the truth of the matter is, on the pathway to materializing your desired reality, there are going to be instances that stimulate degrees of stress, chaos, and panic. And if you don't have the capability of alchemizing those states, which are nothing more than internal states being expressed outside of you, then the materialization of your desired reality will be disrupted. The frequency that you admit, or the state of consciousness, or the self-concept that you occupy in reference to your desired reality has to be crystal clear, nothing but singularity. And the universe, the third dimensional realm, whether you want to attribute that to, your old frequency, it wants to do nothing more than disrupt that. So, as you can see, our boy over here, he's in a full lotus position on top of an explosion, chaos around him, but he's smiling in a state of peace. By the end of this video, that's going to be you. So relax, you're gonna get some.
Good drawing, bro.
Thank you very much. Spent a lot of time on this. If you gave
I was here.
me a chance, I would take it. It's the This actually might be one of the most important videos I've ever made, and I don't often say stuff like that, but it is the central point from which you unfold. We have this tendency as human beings to believe that we are reacting to the universe without realizing that it is in fact the universe that is reacting to you, and that's what bar that down. So anytime that you can be internally swayed and be moved from your center, you are moved from God. And if you're moved from God, you're misaligned to God. And if you're misaligned to God, then you enter what people refer to as hell. People often say that hell is an eternal separation from God, but then those same individuals will then say that God is omnipresent, so we can't be separated from hell. But if we look at it from an esoteric standpoint, it's that misalignment to our center, the infinite intelligence, God, that descends us into a state of hell. And when you're in a state of hell, everything that you're doing in terms of manifestation will almost be like an uphill battle.
The biggest lie I've ever told.
So, first things first, to go back to a point that I just made, God is our center. And until you come to a true conclusion in what God is beyond this personification of this, individual that is sat on a throne, which in of itself is nothing more than a third dimensional realm conception of God. And the moment that you attempt to define God, you in fact confine God, because our minds are finite and God is infinite. And that's almost like trying to scoop up the ocean in a water bottle and saying that you have the whole ocean in the water bottle. You have the ocean, but not the whole ocean. And this is, this can be extrapolated to religion, so on and so forth, which believe they have a monopolization on the idea of God. But if we look at God through a point of metaphysics, God is nothing more than the infinite intelligence. An impersonal energy. Acts 10:34, it says, God is no respecter of persons. Matthew 5:45, it says the rain rains on the just and the unjust, the sun shines on the evil and the good alike. God is this particular impersonal energy, right, that can be likened to electricity. Electricity is impersonal. You can either use it or misuse it, and your use or misuse will determine how you experience it. And that's how we can conceptualize God in the realm of metaphysics. Now, if we go to certain scriptures made, such as Psalm 46:10, be still and know that I am God. Before you can know God, the prerequisite to that is being still. The irony is, the more that you know God, the more that you're able to unify with the consciousness of God in your physical vessel, the more you will be able to transcend limitations. transcend the limitation of your present circumstance, your present condition, your present reality, whatever is within. The issue is a lot of people seek to transcend their realities, but they have not even transcended themselves. And that's a bar, write that down. In order for you to get past whatever particular condition it is that's stressing you, and bear in mind, I will give a technique in this video that you can apply to any particular condition, circumstance, event, or person in reality to calm yourself down. But there's some other things that are taking place behind the scenes that are messing you up. So I think we should get our foundations correctly. The wood must always be laid down first. Pause. Now, as I said, your ability to transcend limitation is directly connected to your ability to align with God. The more that you are aligned with God, or the more you know God, and the more you are one with God, this is what any particular figure such as Christ, Buddha, Krishna represented, a unification with the infinite intelligence. The more you're able to do that, the more you're able to be above the bullshit that life throws at you. Because let's be real, life is always throwing some fuckeries at everybody. And your inability to know how to navigate those fuckeries is what puts you on a frequency under them and them above you. So knowing this, stillness is of the highest importance. Of the highest importance. There's nothing more important in the realm of manifestation than stillness. And you can think about this analogy. Let's say these are waters right here. These are waters. And we can draw a boat. Hard drawing, cool. So as you can see, those waters are pretty choppy, which means that the boat is going to be up and down, up and down, up and down. When the waters within are not still, the pathway to your desired reality will be chaotic. And that's a bar, write that down. Please understand what I just said. When the internal waters, when your waters within are not calm, not at a state of stillness, peace, the pathway to your desired reality is going to be like this. And this is probably how it feels. What it needs to be is like this. As you can see. That is a way easier journey than this. And what are the waters? You are both the waters and you're both the boat. The boat itself is you on the pathway to materializing your desired reality, whether that's an increase in your income, a career promotion, getting employed, being in a healthy relationship, extrapolate this to whatever it is that you desire. You can either be this or this, and more often than not, most people in the world reside in here. Their waters within are not calm. And see, this is what that story where Jesus was able to calm the storm outside and make the storm disappear. You see, what took place was this, and you know what? This is a perfect analogy. This is perfect. The pleasure is all mine. So just to go back to that analogy that I was just talking about in reference to that story where Christ is asleep on the boat, where Christ is asleep on the boat and the disciples get hit with a storm and they're all panicking, they're all scared and they wake him up. Christ was able to wake up and tell that storm to be calm, and it was calm and it disappeared. This was nothing more than a reflection of the point that I was just making, which is this, and this can be extrapolated beyond stillness. Your frequency speaks before you've even spoken. See, the mistake that we often make is thinking that it is us that react to the world, when the truth is the universe reacts to you. The storm in that story is nothing more than representative of the aspect of the disciples' chaotic nature within. Their panic, their stress, their worry. Whereas Christ, which is one with God, a unification with the infinite intelligence and oneness with the God, saw beyond the illusion. And when you see beyond the illusion, you realize that nothing in reality can truly harm you. And I don't mean this in an idiotic sense, nigga. If you run into a wall, you're gonna get fucking hurt. But I mean, the conditions and the circumstances and the events and the people that we begin to encounter in our reality are nothing more than expressions of our own states of consciousness. And the harm that they're able to facilitate on us is also directly interconnected to the consciousness that we have attributed to them to do the harm, which means, and James Allen, my favorite author, often says, what the mind has done, it can undo. What the mind can do, it can undo. And the power lies within your consciousness and coming to the understanding that beyond the illusion, there is no separation. That's a bar, write that down. Beyond the illusion, there is no separation. Because there is no separation, that storm isn't a storm, that storm is you. The universe around you is you. And because that storm is nothing more than an expression of your own consciousness, when you calm your consciousness in the way that Christ said, be still, and it became still, that is the basis for everything that we're going to be building upon today. Make sure you take notes and you leave them in the comments as usual. But your frequency speaks before you've even spoken. So before desiring to see peace around you, ask, is there peace within you? And that's what bar that down. Before desiring to see calmness outside of you, see calmness within you. And you know, Carl Jung, in one of his books called The Development of the Personality, but this was more in the reference to children and parents. He says to parents, before not wanting to see a quality within your child, see to it that you don't have that within yourself. And we can extrapolate this and take this to reality. Before not wanting to see something outside of you, see to it that you don't have it within you. If there's chaos outside of you, more often than not, whether aware or unaware, conscious or unconscious, there is chaos inside of you. And you need to come to the awareness of that. But see, more often than not, we're not aware of the chaos inside of us. But I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you something. I'm going to show you where that chaos lies. And when I was meditating on the topics for this video, as I do with all of my videos, I just meditate on the topics and see what comes to me. When this hit my head, I was in disbelief. I was like, okay, this is crazy.
Nero, thank you.
Oh wow, that's a lot of thank yous.
It's a strong start.
Pleasure's all mine.
Following your teachings on detachment and neutrality, I just landed an incredible new job at the top of my field. I went through interviews with senior leaders, and the hiring manager even coached me through the final stage, telling me they needed me on the team. This role represents about 8 years of career growth in just 4.5.
Wow.
A complete...
Frequency defies rationality.
Complete with a 6-figure salary. Jeez. Woo! Woo, 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 woo. What's amazing is that as soon as I emotionally let go of my current job, they began offering me promotions and a family relocation package. Then just as I start feeling some self-doubt about this new opportunity, your post appeared on my feed with the exact wisdom I needed. Thank you for helping me reconnect with my own power and the metaphysical knowledge I loved as a teenager. Your work is life-changing.
Oh, that's lovely. Thank you very much.
But that 6-figure salary is even lovelier, you know what I'm trying to say?
Nah, for real.
Nah, that's sick. That's sick.
Now, here's the thing. A dependence on the external is slavery. And it's slavery in particular to panic, chaos, worry, and stress. And the reason for that is this. What you have to come to an understanding of is that if you can allow the external to sway the internal, then naturally you will be a slave of the external. As I said, if you allow the external to sway the internal, eventually your internal, after being swayed by the external, is going to reflect the external. And this is the cycle that anytime you're not feeling good in reality, please just remember this formula. Please just remember this formula. If there's any time in reality that you're not feeling good, you're feeling stress, you're feeling chaos, you're feeling panic, you're feeling worry, fear, stress, it is because somewhere along the line, you have allowed the external to alter the internal, and eventually you have set into motion to reflect the very source of your problems. Now, the mistake here is the dependency on reality. And this all comes down to you still taking what you're seeing outside of you to be more real than what is within you, which indicates one thing in particular. You need to spend more time within. And I'll build up on that point later, but it's good for me to note it now. The whole reason is this: any particular time that you can allow the external, so let's say a failure to attain a job, a failure to attain a promotion, making the same amount of money, making less money, not getting into a healthy relationship, any time that you can allow the external conditions to sway you into panic, chaos, worry, and stress, that is due to the fact that there's an aspect of you that is still dependent upon your eyesight. Now, to be dependent upon your eyesight is to get caught up in the devil. The devil's representative of the world, the third dimensional realm. What do I mean by that? To the devil, the world around them is real. Let's think about it like this. The devil represents a fall of consciousness, right? Let's take the story of the fall of man, so on and so forth. Yet, okay, without getting too much into it, let's just take the concept of the devil. The devil's a fall of consciousness. It's a fall of a descent of consciousness into the physical world, but then deeming the physical world to be so real that they're attached to the physical world. There's no difference. There's no difference. See, and the funny thing is, niggas think the real devilish stuff is all the people that are doing all the evil things in the world. But from a point of metaphysics, the association with the devil is nothing more than taking the physical plane around you to be the truth. That is it. Hence why, when Christ was in the desert, the devil said, I'll give you everything that you can see, because to the devil's concept, to their limited conceptualization on the true nature of reality, what they see is real. And any time that you're allowing what you see to be real to you, you're falling into the same game. You're setting yourself up for this formula right here to eventually take place. Hence why that is what makes you a slave to condition. The true slave of the world isn't necessarily the individual that, wants to wear all the designer and be famous and do all of this, all these kind of things that we think. The true slave to the world is the individual whose internal state is dependent on the world. And that's a bar right down. That was real. Because that is the highest form of metaphysical slavery that you can form. Because so long as you're dependent on the external, let's say the external throws you some bullshit. So like I said, a failure to attain a particular condition of reality. You don't get the job, you don't get the promotion, the money's still the same, your girl's giving you problems, your guy's giving you problems, you got no guy, you got no girl, whatever it is. If you take that as real, then when we make something real, what we do is attribute meaning to it. And meaning is emotion. And emotion is the language of the subconscious mind. And when that enters the subconscious mind, subconscious is interchangeable with your consciousness, your frequency, your self-concept. They're all interchangeable terms. You then allow your eyesight to determine your internal state. And when your eyesight determines your internal state, you are on this cycle of never escaping. Please, like I said, if you really think about it, think about any particular time that you're worried, stressed, panicking, or internally chaotic. Think about it. It's always because you're allowing what you see to determine how you feel without realizing how you feel determines what you see. And this is the perpetual cycle that people get themselves caught upon. Like I said, let's take the example of somebody who fails to attain a career promotion. Let's say you go for a promotion, you don't get the promotion. When you don't get the promotion, you now allow what you see to determine how you feel. How do you feel? You feel worthless, you feel unappreciated, you feel useless, you feel unseen, you don't feel cherished, you might even feel like a burden. And then how you feel emits to a frequency, because your emotion is the largest shareholder of your frequency. Your emotion is the largest shareholder of your frequency, your state of consciousness, your self-concept, your subconscious mind. That now leads to the materialization of conditions that only reflect you being unseen, uncherished, unappreciated, and you feeling useless. Then you end up on this perpetual cycle, all because you've allowed what you see to determine how you be. And that is a bar, ladies and gentlemen. Never let what you see determine how you be. Because if you can allow what you see to alter your state of being, then you've fallen for the trap without realizing that your state of being is ultimately what leads to what you see. Did you catch what I just said? If you allow what you see to alter how you be, you fail to come to the conclusion that how you be or what you be leads to what you see. And that is where people get caught up on this cycle again and again and again and again. And this all arises from the one problem that you have not spent enough time within. You need to spend more time within. And this is so fucking funny when you think about it. Like, I remember when I first used to drop these videos, people often be like, I'm not watching a 40-minute video on this. I'd be like, cool, nigga, who gives a fuck? But then at the same time, if Stranger Things releases a new episode, we're all gonna watch that.
That shit, hours long.
Game of Thrones drops it, we're all gonna watch that. And this can be extrapolated to any particular thing that we do as human beings. Typically, entertainment seems easier for the mind to conceptualize in longer periods of time. Nigga, you can't spend 40 minutes to alter your fucking state of consciousness, to alter your reality. You're cooked. You're finished. Long day. And imagine if we spent a fraction of the time we spend on entertainment with them. Just a fraction. Just a fraction. Let's say you spend 4 hours in entertainment a day, right? A quarter of that time, an hour within. Just imagine. Because here's the thing, the less time you spend within, the more dependent you're going to be without. On the without. The less time that you spend within, the more you're going to depend on the without. That's a bar. Let me say that one more time. The less time that you spend within, either in a state of stillness or cultivation of your desired reality by utilizing your imagination to create a vivid scene that indicates that you have attained what it is that you want by stimulating emotion to enter the subconscious mind, the less time you spend within, the more you're going to depend on the without. However, the more time you spend within, the less time, the more time, the more time you spend within, the less you're going to depend on the without. And that's ultimately the game of reality creation. The entire game of reality creation is to relinquish dependency on the without. Because dependency on the without is slavery. It's slavery to conditions. It's slavery to circumstances. It's slavery to polarity, which is forever changing. And because it's forever changing, your internal state is always going to be like this. Things are going to go good, then they're going to go bad. They're going to go good, then bad. Good, bad, good, bad, good, bad. Because that's the nature of polarity. That's the nature of the third dimensional realm. That's the nature of the physical plane. It is nothing more than a consistent flow and change of consciousness depending upon where the universe wants to fucking take it at that particular moment in time. What a collective consciousness. We can have that discussion. But my point remains the same. If you can spend more time within, the less dependent you're going to be on the without. And the more that the external can affect you, then that, my friend, is a check engine light that you need to spend more time within. You have to. Now, on the topic of actually how to cultivate that degree of stillness, because that's the whole point of this video, right? The more internal stillness that you have, the more external stillness that you have. And ironically, John 3:27 says a man can receive nothing unless it is first given to him from heaven. You can't receive anything in reality. You can't materialize anything in reality unless it is first given to you from heaven. Now, is that some, external personality sign in the sky that says, you know what? I'm going to let these kids starve, but I'm going to give that pastor that new Mercedes that he prayed for. No, it's not any particular archetype of this anthropomorphized God who has this particular personality and temper tantrums and all of this and all of that. It is nothing more than coming to the realization that heaven in of itself is that particular degree of internal stillness. A man can't receive anything unless it is first given to him from heaven. Heaven is that stillness. Heaven is that calm. And if we look at it from a point of brain waves, when your brain is in alpha and theta is deeply relaxed meditative states, stillness. And ironically, in those states, the door to your subconscious mind opens. So the more that you're relaxed and the more that you're still, the more you actually make all this manifestation shit that you're doing way easier. And I think about this all the time. I think about all the people that must be like in the ends or in the projects or in like war-torn places in the world and like these extreme environments of extreme degrees of suffering, misfortune, and misery, quote unquote. And I think to myself, when your brain is locked into survival, you don't have the capability of relaxing because the survival mind, the basal ganglia, is always looking for the next threat. And because it's always looking for the next threat, it's always concentrating on the next threat. And concentration is the beginning of vibration. Vibration precedes frequency. Frequency is vibration that has caught up motion. And then frequency is immaterialized reality, and reality is materialized frequency. So then I think to myself, damn, these people aren't in particular conditions, or the conditions are against them to make it easier to relax, making it more difficult to relax, and indirectly making it more difficult to get ideas into their subconscious mind, indirectly making it more difficult to alter their realities. I think about that all the time. So when we're talking about stillness, hence why I said this is so important that you know how to navigate conditions, circumstances, people that stress you out. If you don't know how to navigate this shit, you're always going to be like those choppy waves that I drew at the start. And you're going to be the boat that is always going up and down, up and down, up and down. Where if you can internally calm the waters within, the path to your journey will be much more easy. It's easier to drive on a smooth road than a road with potholes. And if you're African, you know what I'm talking about. You lot got potholes in Jamaica, and I know
bro, they're bad. Bro. Oh my days, bro.
It's bad, isn't it?
Might as well not have
I
roads.
used red? Have I used red?
I don't think so.
I feel like I have. But I feel like I killed the red from my drawing earlier.
Was it this red though?
No, it might be that one. Yeah, it might be that one. So, and this hit me in the shower. I was thinking about stillness, and I was thinking about how we can cultivate internal degrees of stillness. But then I came to a realization of something in particular, and that is our stillness is disrupted by our past. What do you mean by that, Nero? Relax, you're gonna get some. Now we know time is an illusion, so the past doesn't exist. So technically in the subconscious mind, and that's the dangerous part. The dangerous part is that to the subconscious mind, time doesn't exist. That's dangerous because that means that any particular condition that's in the subconscious mind, bear in mind, the only way to get into the subconscious mind is by emotional intensity, whether negative or positive. More often than not, it's negative. Emotional intensity puts you into the subconscious mind. And because the subconscious mind doesn't adhere to the concept of the past or the future, the subconscious mind only registers it as the now. So that would mean that past events in your reality that generated emotional intensity enters your subconscious mind. And because your subconscious mind thinks it's taking place now, it creates it now. What do you mean by that, Nero? Our present stillness is affected by our past. Here's the thing about memories. Memories don't disappear. Memories are actually energies that exist within you, and that's a bar, write that down. And because memories exist within you, if a memory has enough emotional intensity, it will enter the subconscious. And when it enters the subconscious will play that now. Think about it like silently playing a song in the background of your life. That song is quietly playing in the background of your life, negatively altering and corrupting the frequency that you're emitting to bring you more bullshit, more chaos, more stress, and more drama in your life. So, unresolved, emotionally intense experiences that exist within, that are taking place within, disrupt your ability to be still. Think about it like this. Let's say you have a crazy argument. Let's say you have a crazy argument with someone that you care for. It could be a family member, could be a partner, could be a co-worker, could be a friend, whatever. Let's say you have a crazy argument with that person. Crazy argument. And then you just, you guys just decide, yeah, we're just gonna move on. We're just gonna move on. The emotional intensity of that particular scenario entered the subconscious mind. And because it entered the subconscious mind was filled with chaos. It was filled with panic. It was filled with worry, anger, frustration, disharmony. And because all of those things entered the subconscious mind, and quietly in the background of your life, how could you be still when that song is still playing quietly in the background of your life? And extrapolate this to anything in your life. Now, here's what I'm going to need you to do. Make the unstill still. I want you to take the examples in your life that have made you the most unstill. These could be the most traumatic, or it could just be anything that really rattled you, anything that really just swayed you completely, and make them still. Because until you do that, the chaos, the panic, the anger, the worry, the frustration, that's going to be silently playing in the background of your reality, whether you realize it or not. And that is ultimately what is going to affect your ability to be still in your reality. Because here's the thing, we've been conditioned by the world and the third dimensional realm to be addicted to worry, to stress, to panic, to frustration, to chaos. We've been wired to be conditioned and addicted to these things. So it's actually not normal for stillness to be around. And this entire thing is breaking the addiction to that. So anything that has made you unstill in the past week or so, or however, because I'm sure there's things in your mind that, whether arguments, whether, breakups, whether times when money was low, anything that has ever made you unstill internally still exists within you as a memory. And until you have the capability of transmuting the energy, which is the memory, because memory is the energies, and so you have the capability of transmuting that energy, and you do that through transmuting the memory by cultivating, going back and using your imagination to go back to that moment that made you unstill, and to recreate it in a way that reflects harmony, in a way that reflects peace, in a way that reflects stillness, as opposed to how it happened. So instead of you beefing someone in your head on a mad thing, you have some crazy beef, get into a meditative state, relax, recreate that argument, but just as you're about to start arguing, instead, you hug, you express gratitude for one another. You express praise to that person. You're grateful for that person. You recreate what took place, because that is ultimately what's going to make the unstill still. And when eventually you do that enough, you're going to condition yourself, your subconscious mind, to reflect stillness. And when your subconscious mind is conditioned to reflect stillness, then the song that's quietly playing in the background of your reality, remember, you don't react to reality, reality reacts to you. Now reality is going to be reacting to an individual that is emitting stillness and calm. And when you're emitting stillness and calm, you then set yourself in a path to be relaxed. And when you set yourself in a path to be relaxed, the universe is going to say, this individual is so relaxed. What is it that you know what? They must have what they want. You know what? Let me give them what they want, because you can only have what you already have. And before you can have stillness without, you must have stillness within. Before you can have stillness without, you first must have it within. Before you can have it without, you first must have it within. But the only way you can cultivate it within is by using your imagination to create a vivid imaginal scene that stimulates emotion in reflection of stillness to such a point that you're immersed. And the only way you can do that is by taking advantage of the fact that time doesn't exist to the subconscious. And because time doesn't exist to the subconscious, all the instances that have ever made you unstill are taking place in your mind right now. When you didn't get that client and you were rattled and you really needed it, it didn't happen. When you really needed money and it didn't come through. When you thought you were with the person and they completely broke your trust. When you went for that job and you didn't get that job. When you went for that promotion, you didn't get that promotion. Anytime that reality has made you severely unstill and it has absolutely rattled you, those situations are playing in your mind. And as I'm saying this, there's probably things that are coming to the top of your mind right now, even if it happened weeks ago, even if it happened months ago, years ago, without realizing that that unresolved, emotionally intense experience is still emitting a frequency right now that is emitting itself to the universe, causing the universe to react to that unresolved, emotionally intense experience, reflecting worry, chaos, anger, and all of the above. You need to make the unstill still. But the only way you can do that is by doing what I just mentioned. Now, there's probably an aspect of you that is like, Nero, when a situation pops up, how do I deal with that? I'll show you. So what I'm about to give you right now is the process for how you can deal with any person that stresses you out, family member, friends, co-worker, all of that. Any situation, you get hit with some fuckeries, a mad thing, this will be the way to deal with that. And if you can make this a practice, you're also training yourself to be more still. And when you can train yourself to be still, you train your universe to be still. Let's borrow that down. People will often say to me, like, how do I deal with negative people? How do I deal with this negative circumstance? Like, internally, like my emotions are all over the place. This is the process that I call the 3 T's. I have a whole video on this, but I'm going to simplify it and break it down now. Go watch that whole video. The 3 T's are transcend, transmute, and transform. So the first T is transcend. See, what often happens is that we have this particular natural instinct to avoid reality. What do I mean by that? When we see something we don't like, when our bank account is low, you're like, oh, I'm not even gonna look at it. When you've been spending, you don't even want to look at your bank account. You don't even want to check because you already know. You already know. When there's somebody that's continuously giving you stress or problems, you don't want to face them. In fact, you want to avoid them. Our natural instinct is to avoid. But I need you to understand, in this spiritual world that we live in, avoidance is an admission of weakness. Please understand what I just said. Avoidance is an admission of weakness. Your avoidance of that condition, circumstance, or person that you don't want to meet is an admission that you are weaker than them from a point of frequency. So they will always be above you. You must never run away. And I always hear, spiritual niggas say, oh, ignore the 3D or this or this or that. But that avoidance is nothing more than you not wanting to deal with the chaos that is going within, which until you have the capability of calming those waters and telling that storm to just stop and be still, you will quite literally be in the same bullshit position. So transcend is the point that requires you to go beyond the default. And the default is to run away, the default is to hide, the default is to avoid. And the only way you can do that is by getting into. Now, this depends on what it is. Now, if it's a person that's consistently beefing, I'm not saying stare at them like this. That's ridiculous. But in other instances, like bank accounts and stuff like that, you can do it. So it depends. Extrapolate this to whatever it is. But let's say you don't want to look at your bank account. Your bank account is stressing you. Or a letter is stressing you that you owe money or some shit like that. That works. But with people, you don't want to stare in front of people like a fucking weirdo. It's just a bad look, innit? So, like I said, bank account, letters, test results, whatever it is. Stare at those. So anything that's not people, what I want you to do physically, not with your eyes closed, but physically. So let's say it was my bank account. I'd take out my bank, I'd unlock my phone and I'd be like this. Now, you probably want to be sat down. Whether this takes you 30 minutes, 40 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, I need you to stare at it and allow all the emotions and the inner dialogue that you've been seeking to avoid to arise. That's it. The second is transmute. And that is nothing more than, oh, by the way, the part of transcending is to wait for neutrality. So what's naturally going to happen, what your mind doesn't want you to realize is that all the emotions, all the fear, all the worry, all the panic that you have about looking at that debt letter, looking at your bank account, or whatever it is that's bothering you, a text message even, it could be that. What it doesn't want you to realize is that eventually you will get to a point of neutrality. I promise you. It doesn't feel like it. It feels like you're going to be trapped in this like nightmare forever, but it's not going to be like that. So no matter what it is, just stare at it. Whether that takes you 20 minutes to get to neutrality, 30 minutes, an hour, eventually the emotions that you're feeling are going to dissipate. That negativity is going to go down to a point where you just look at it and you feel nothing. That's perfect. Because when you're at that point of neutrality, that's where transmutation begins. Because the mistake that a lot of people make is this. So let's look at the poles like this. There's negative, neutral, and positive. What most people try to do is to jump from negative straight to positive. And you don't have the fucking energy or momentum to do that, especially in that state. What's easier is to go from negative to neutral by just confronting it and not feeling anything. And then when you're in that state of neutrality, then that is when we go from negative to positive. That is how the jump should be made. And then the final step is transform, which is nothing more than you concentrating on the positive pole of whatever it is that you're, whatever condition. No? Perfect. And this is the process. Now, with a person, let's say there's somebody that's stressing you, a family member, co-worker, friend, whatever. You want to shut all that beef down in your head before you go any further. Because Lord knows you're beefing that person in your head, telling them what you really think. Yeah, you're a fucking asshole. Just giving it to them hard in your head. Pause. You want to stop all of that, because what takes place within is just as real as what takes place without, and that's a bar. Write that down. If you could have enough seriousness for what takes place within your consciousness and your imagination, I promise you, half the shit that goes on there would stop immediately if it was printed right in front of you instantly. But it's not printed instantly. In fact, reality takes its time to materialize, right? But if it's a person, just imagine, get into a meditative state, close your eyes, relax. If that takes you 5 minutes to do so, 10 minutes, just wait until you relax. Bring that person to the forefront of your mind and just stare at them. Stare at them and allow all the fear, the panic, the worry, and everything else, the anger that you're feeling towards them, allow all of that to dissipate. That might take you an hour, it might take you 2 hours. Don't rush yourself. Don't think to yourself, I want to get this over and done. This is your fucking life. This is your reality. This ain't something to just run past. You understand what I'm saying? Then wait till you get to that point of neutrality. And when you're at that point of neutrality, then attempt to shift to that particular degree of positivity. And that positivity is going to be in hidden elements. It's going to be something within that condition, circumstance, or person that is hidden, that doesn't want to show itself, but there's something about them, because everything exists in energetic polarity. Everything exists with an energetic complementary pair. There's going to be something positive about that particular individual, even if it doesn't appear itself, immediately, even if it doesn't show itself immediately. Find it. And when you find it, concentrate upon it completely, again and again and again. And this is all you need to do to deal with any circumstance of life. I promise you. There's not a single circumstance of life that you can't not deal with this about. I promise you. The final thing is actually a secret that I came to a conclusion with a client of mine when we were talking. This was last year. And this is something that we use all the time ourselves, which is almost a paradox. So shout out Mr. Opulent. This is what I call negative gratitude. And the conclusion that we came to is that typically, if you think about the moments in your life where some bullshit happens, you always make it past the BS, that's whatever it is that's happening. No matter how bad it seems, you always make it past. In fact, you always end up in a better position after you've gone through that particular chaotic event in your life. So why don't we transcend time? See, when most people get hit with a bullshit scenario, let's say a dry period, no clients are coming in, no sales are coming in, or you're unemployed for a season period of time, or you're just failing to get promotions, or you're just continuously dating bad people, or not dating anyone at all, whatever it is that you would determine as bad in your reality, you need to begin to have gratitude for the negativity in your reality by coming to the realization that any particular time that you're going through a degree of intense negativity in your life, it is always followed by a springboard for elevation. Every time, every single time, whether you realize it or not, it is always a springboard for elevation. Now, here's the thing. Like I said, it's almost an oxymoron in a sense, contradicting negative gratitude. Think about it. Any particular time where something terrible has happened, not only do you make it past, you always end up in a better position. Instead of let's say you're going through something right now, the mistake would be to be like, ugh, and this is terrible, and get caught up in it. But if you transcend time, then you jump past that situation and you actually look back at your negativity, the negativity that's happening now, you look back at it, which is a reference to consciousness that you're separated from it. Because when you see what's around you and you get caught up in what's around you, then you actually end up taking on the frequency of what's taking place on outside of you, which then instills itself inside of you. When you have the capability of transcending time by coming to the recognition that any time that you're going through some drama, anytime there was darkness in your reality, it was always followed by a period of light. And because it was always followed by a period of light, why don't you have gratitude for the negativity, which sets into motion that negativity to be transmuted. So even when some bullshit happens, have some gratitude towards it, because you'd only have gratitude towards it if you were past it. In the same way, you look back at the experiences you've been through and you say, you know what, I went through that and it taught me this. I went through that and I learned this. I went through that and it made me this. Why don't you look at your current circumstance of negativity or suffering or misfortune or chaos? Look at that with the lens of gratitude, and you will set yourself in motion to transmute the negativity into positivity. And in doing so, that is how you make reality nervous.